Okay, for lesson 7, you're going to start talking about using precise language. So remember that strong writers will choose words that are accurate for what they are trying to convey. So remember that authors have specific tones when they write, and you want to make sure that you're choosing words that convey that tone. So be clear, exact, and appropriate. And also you want to use domain specific vocabulary, but keep in mind that like for the ocean animals, one of the categories is invasive species. And a lot of times you'll find the scientific word for the invasive species. And that is a very high level word that, your audience is middle school students. So think about the words that you're using when you are writing your essay. And if you need to include, like pronunciations or definitions or things like that, or if you just want to put the scientific names in parentheses and then put the everyday name that we know them by in actually referring to them by that name. So make very careful decisions about how you are conveying the tone, how you're coming across, and what words you're specifically using. So you're thinking about your audience when you do this, okay? Use words that they will understand and use the right language. At this point, you are using that right language for your audience by doing that. All right, so remember that you need to adjust your language for different situations. It depends on if it's formal writing or not formal writing. This is a formal essay, so this is a formal writing. For formal essays, you typically don't want to use first and second person pronouns. So you would stay away from I, me, we, us, you, they, you. You can use they and them. Remember, in formal writing, this requires precise language. It does not show much of the author's personality. You are giving information about a subject, so you're not giving an opinion. So you don't need the word I in there. You don't need you in there either to refer to your audience. Okay, informal writing is more conversational. So that would be like a letter or an email or a text, and that's not what we're writing here. So make sure that you are writing this in it is a formal writing assignment, okay? So the question here says, for an informational or explanatory essay, will you need to write with formal or informal? Well, of course, it's going to be formal, and that gives you more credibility, right? Formal gives you more credibility. When you're talking to someone and they're talking informally to you, it doesn't convey their professionalism or, if they're a professional in their field, it doesn't convey that. But if they're using domain specific language and formal, they're speaking formally, it conveys more of that professionalism and you trust that source a little bit more. Okay, we're going to watch a couple of short videos on phrases, clauses, and sentences, and how to add details in your writing.
Phrases and clauses and sentences, oh my! Alashma. Before everyone started speaking in fragments,
Where are you at? Over at the thing.
and before all communication consisted entirely of acronyms and abbreviations, there used to be these things called sentences. As a bit of a history lesson, as well as something to help you compose an essay that won't make your teacher's stomach turn, let's examine a sentence and see what makes it tick. As you may already be aware, a sentence has both a subject and a verb. It also has things like a capital letter at the beginning and some form of punctuation at the end. A foreign concept, we know. But those are just the basics. To make a sentence really zing, pop, and wow, you'll want to experiment with phrasing. Otherwise, your sentence is just going to lie there like a dead fish. It's going to stink like one, too. So what exactly is a phrase, and how do we use it to make our sentence awesome?
Oh, snap.
A phrase is really just a series of words you add to an otherwise boring sentence to add description, explanation, context, or color. Phrases are needy. They can't exist on their own. They need to be part of a sentence in order to survive. Total parasites. A phrase can also have a subject or a verb, but not both. If you're reading something with both, it's most likely a sentence. So take a sentence like, the cat ran. Whoop-de-doo. If we add a phrase, we can turn it into, the cat with the extraordinarily long tail ran. Still not a thrilling story, but at least we can clearly visualize this freakish animal. The cat with the extraordinarily long tail is what's called a noun phrase because it contains, yes, a noun. The noun being cat. Yeah, tail is a noun too, but the cat is the subject here. Because without the cat, we'd just have a tail floating in space, which would really drive the neighbor's dog crazy. Well, if there's a noun phrase, there must also be a verb phrase, right? Oh, you're so smart. If we turn our original sentence into the cat ran through the courtyard singing show tunes, we've once again made our sentence more interesting. Except this time we're focusing on an action rather than on the physical description of a noun. So here our verb phrase is ran through the courtyard singing show tunes. We're guessing something from Cats. Memories. Now, what if we do something totally nutso and combine our noun phrase with our verb phrase? We get the cat with the extraordinarily long tail ran through the courtyard singing show tunes. Now, that is one cat we'd like to get to know a little better. However, there's one more tool we can use to make our sentence even better: a clause. Like Santa. Put those away, cat. Other kind of clause. A clause actually can contain both a subject and a verb, but what makes it stand out is that it tells the reader a little something more about the subject than a basic skin and bones sentence. We could say, the cat ran, but he didn't make it to the bus on time. We don't have that detailed description of his tail, and we don't know if he was singing anything as he ran, but it's certainly more informative than the cat ran. We know what you're wondering. Can we put together all three of these phrases to make the most incredible sentence of all time? You betcha. The cat with the extraordinarily long tail ran through the courtyard singing show tunes, but he didn't make it to the bus on time.
Aww.
Not only is this sentence insanely interesting, but it also contains a moral. Save your singing for the shower unless you want to be late for cat school. Having a knowledge of phrases and clauses in your back pocket will help you class up your sentences.
Meow.
It will make your work more fun to read, and quite honestly, more fun to write, too. Just don't have too much fun. You don't want your teacher to catch you enjoying yourself.
Would you like to learn how to make your sentences more sophisticated and add details that will help your reader understand your message even better? Stick around, that's what we'll be looking at today. We're going to take this simple sentence, she is a good athlete, and we are going to add tons of details that will help the reader understand more about she and understand more about this person being an athlete, all in the same sentence. Okay, so we're starting out with she is a good athlete. Pretty vague sentence. We don't know who she is. We don't know what sport she plays. And we don't know if she's good just because she shows up at every practice. Is she good because she won a bunch of trophies? We don't know anything. This is a very good example of the kind of sentence about which your teacher might say, you need to add more details. Well, how do you add more details? That's what we're going to take a look at. Let's think first, how can we make this more specific? Because the more specific you can get, the better it is for your reader to understand your message. So I'm not going to use the pronoun here. I'm simply going to tell you what her name is. And instead of saying she's a good athlete, I'm going to tell you a little bit more specifically that she plays tennis and how good she is at tennis. Let me show you. Okay, now my subject has a name. Her name is Carly, and she's not just simply a good athlete, she is a gifted tennis player. Now, one way I can prove that this is a great improvement in this sentence is to simply use the readability tool in Microsoft Word. And you do have to go into the options in the proofing and turn on readability levels. But once you've done that, you can highlight something in your writing and hit spell check. When it says, do you want to check the rest of the document? Just say no, because you only want to check whatever sentence you're working on, and it will give you a readability level. And those levels pretty much correspond to grade levels in the United States as far as reading levels. And I'm going to tell you, this first sentence I wrote here, when I checked its readability in Microsoft Word, I found that it was only a 2.8 reading level. That's kind of like the end of second grade reading level. But when I check this sentence, Carly is a gifted tennis player, just simply by being more specific about her name and getting rid of that really common adjective good and being more specific about her sport, I'm already up to a 6.4 readability level. That's a pretty good improvement. But I think there are still some things that I can do to add details to the sentence that'll make it more interesting and more informative for my reader. What I've done in this example, Carly, my best friend, is a gifted tennis player, is add what we call a parenthetical. And that is some more descriptive information enclosed in commas that gives more detail to my sentence. I think I can do better. Now, what I've done in this next example is expand my parenthetical and give you more information about my relationship with Carly. So now I'm saying, Carly, my best friend since kindergarten, here's my parenthetical, enclosed within commas, is a gifted tennis player. Now, doing this has now got me up to a grade 8 readability level. That's pretty good, from second grade up to 8th grade, by simply adding more details and adding in a little bit of extra punctuation in the form of commas. Now what I've done is add more information about Carly as a tennis player. My last few examples, I was telling you more about my relationship with Carly. Now I can get to the predicate of the sentence and focus more on extending that idea of her being a tennis player. So here's what I've said in my latest revision. Carly, my best friend since kindergarten, won Athlete of the Year in 2018 because she is a successful, gifted tennis player. Notice my sentence is getting longer. I'm including more and more details, and the readability just keeps going up. At this point, this sentence, the way it's presented in Microsoft Word when I check the readability level, is up to a 9th grade readability level. That's pretty good for a sentence that started out just having a 2nd grade readability level. I think I can take it up one more notch though. Let's take a look. Okay, finally, I've got this sentence up to a 12.4 readability level. Let's take a look at what it says now. Carly, my best friend since kindergarten, won Athlete of the Year in 2018 as a high school sophomore because she is a successful, gifted tennis player. I've told you all about my relationship and how I know Carly, how long I've known Carly, and I've told you how I know she's a gifted tennis player because she won Athlete of the Year in 2018. She was only a sophomore and she was quite successful playing tennis. So I've added lots of information, lots of details here, making a sentence that was only at a 2nd grade level all the way up to a 12th grade readability level.
Okay, so remember to use precise language and make sure that you're making your writing interesting whenever you write. So make sure you watch the attached video to learn how to change your settings in Word. I have linked that along with this lesson, so you should see that in there as well.